Sierra from Saddlery, and today we're going to show you how to tread a stirrup. When we're finished, this is what it'll look like. So we're going to use, this will be a number 9 hole punch, a number 1 edger, our die pin, our burnishing cloth, and we'll also be using two 21-inch sections of 1/2 inch Indian tan or Latigo. So first thing we're going to be doing is with our tread pattern is we're going to go ahead and edge just the scalloped sides on both pieces, front and back. So with using this open-ended edger, because I'm going around a curved portion, I find it a lot easier instead of pushing it along, that I can get it started and move my project so I don't have a choppy cut around the curves. So when cutting out this piece of leather, because this is where the foot will be resting within the stirrup and rubbing, we don't want a piece that's too loose grained, too cheesy of a texture. We want it to have enough stiffness to it to hold up over use of the foot going in and out of the stirrup. So now that we have both pieces edged, we're going to go ahead and wet them to burnish and dye the edges. So now that we have our treads wet, we're going to go ahead and burnish the outside edges, and then we'll go back over and dye it. To burnish it, I'm using a waxed canvas rag. So going back and forth with your waxed canvas, if it starts to feel a little too dry, not enough wax on it anymore, you can use beeswax or saddle soap and just put a thin layer by rubbing it across the top of your canvas. So you'll know that you're done burnishing with a good edge when you get a nice, shiny, smooth surface. So now that I have the sides edged and burnished, we're going to go over it with mahogany dye. And you can use a marker like I'm using, or you can use a dauber. You just want to make sure that you don't have it too overloaded with dye so it doesn't drip on your project. And you want to get it right to the edge of the line we made when we went over it with the edger. So now that they're dyed and they're still a little damp, we're going to go ahead and mold them around the bottom of our stirrup. Now these patterns have a little bit of a wing to the side. So what you can do is using your fingers, just roll them up a little bit. And what we'll do is we'll stick them into centered on the stirrup and pressing down firmly. We can get it to follow the curvature of the stirrup, and then holding it in place with one hand, you can grip open palm and roll the side over. So when it comes to the back side, we'll roll over like this, and then same thing on the other side. And you'll have excess, it'll overlap, and that's fine because we can trim that down to fit the size stirrup that we're covering. We can use a square or a ruler, and I want to just mark out a little offset of center, probably about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch on one piece. We can take that off, and we'll use our round knife to go ahead and cut along this line, and then we'll put it back on and mark the other side. We're going to go ahead and put it back on our stirrup, and using it on the underside, set it in place and fold the long side back over. So it gives us an idea of how much excess we need to cut off on this side to give us about an 1/8 inch gap between the two. We're going to go ahead and place 5 evenly spaced holes along the edge of both ends. Now the spacing isn't set, it's going to be depending on how wide your stirrup's going to be and your tread's going to be. So you might have a kid's stirrup that's a little bit shorter or a lady's stirrup that's a little bit narrower. You can usually eyeball where in your corner you're going to start and then divide the difference and then divide it again. And you'll notice I have another piece underneath. So this is just to have a little bit more pressure on the underside so I don't deform the leather. What we're going to go ahead and do is take our Indian tan or Latigo lacing that we're going to use, and this is 1/2 inch wide, and just to make it easier to pull through the holes, we're going to point it, and I'm using my round knife to do this. You can also use scissors to cut the point and a safety skiver if you have one, and you're going to just skive the tip down, and this just makes it easier to grab and pull through the hole. And we're going to do that on all points. Now the total length that we have for these laces is about 21-22 inches, and if you want it to lace underneath and come back out the ends so you can cut them off, you want to go about 25-26, but what we're going to do today is blood knot the ends when they come out. So we have our laces pointed and skived. We're going to go ahead and put our treads back onto our stirrups. And I've went ahead and wetted down my lace. Just makes it a little bit easier to get through the holes. If you have saddle soap or Skidmores, you can put that on also to help it slide through the holes easier. And what we'll do is we're going to start on one end hole. And you can use pliers to help get your thread started through the hole. And then we're going to go opposite end and opposite side at a diagonal across the tread. And we want to pull both of these even, so once we lace it, they meet back in the middle. So now what we're going to do is once we come out, we're going to go back across. You want to pull tight and make sure it's nice and snug. And you'll notice when we do this, we still have a little bit of a gap. So the reasons for that is once we lace back through, it gives us an area to get a good grip on our lace and move it where we want. And also, we can get a lift to get it across to the next hole. So when we're going on the underside, we're going to go at a diagonal. So then when we come across the top, it comes across in a straight line. And then once we get to the middle hole, we're going to stop on the one side and then do the other side. So as you're lacing this, if you notice you're getting a little bit of bumps, you can take a smooth face saddler's hammer and hammer these down to give it a little bit more of a flush look. So now that we have the lacings all the way to the middle hole and they're opposite each other, what we're going to do is with a bleeder tool, we're going to go ahead and start from one side, close down towards the hole. You want the blade part pointing away from you. You want the rounded part towards the tread. We're going to push down, centered side to side on the lace, and fairly close. We want it about 1/8 of an inch off of the hole. And what we're going to do is gently, so we don't cut too far, push our bleeder tool through. And if you don't have a bleeder tool, you can use like a little guppy or the point end of your round knife to just start and get a little slot made. And what we're going to do is take the pointed end of the opposite lace, and you can use pliers to open the hole if need be. Grab the point and pull it through. So now once we get this through, we want it to lay centered and flat through the hole, like that. And then what we're going to do is do the same thing from the smooth side on the lace that just went through the hole. So now using the bleeder tool, we'll do the same thing on the opposite piece. So now that we have the bleeder tool through, pull it back out, and then same thing, point back through the hole and lay flat. So now when we pull them together, they're smooth outside, out both directions. And from this point, you can use either a round knife or a pair of scissors to adjust your length to however long or short of a tail you want. And you can either go same direction, slant, blunt across, opposite directions. But for this one, we're going to go ahead and just one cut, make a nice even slant. So when it's done, you have a nice little tab on the bottom, and this pairs very well on saddles that have strings. So now that we have that finished blood knotted, that's the end of putting on our tread. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to this channel for more videos.